Looks like it is showing up live on my news feed, and we are live. I think we're live. I believe we're live. I think we're live. All right, so in case we're live, let me just check.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Think so?
Looks like it.
All right, but why don't my video look funny? Oh wow, got 5 people watching. Chuck,
nice.
Hotep, Chuck Morgan in the house. All right, so let me take this headpiece. So all right, so just kick it, have a little fun right now. Up, Hotep, brother Tony, tuned in.
Hotep.
Yes. So okay, so now I know everybody can see me, but they can't see you. So let me just let everyone know who see this video, who's on the line with me. I have Sonnet Emiket Aku Kenshai on the line, so maybe you want to say Hotep to everybody.
Hotep Babette, and yeah, we are live, and yes, as Wudjau has introduced me, Ren Imiket, so my name is Imiket, and Hotep once again.
All right, good. So, what you want to kick it about? Us, we got Sister Kenya in the house who was there at today's event today.
Nice, Hotep's in it.
All right. So anyway, yeah, I just want to have a conversation about something that I kind of covered today about chakras. But before talking about that, this whole idea of no pseudo tour, because I was asked, what is the no pseudo tour, or what's that all about, and everything, and I kind of touched on it today a little bit about pseudoism, because pseudo became a household word, and a lot of people use the word pseudo, and we hear it a lot now. Some people even say they're sick and tired of it. They're sick and tired of hearing the word pseudo. So so today I kind of put it in its proper perspective or proper context, and which is to say that pseudo is short for pseudoscience, and pseudoscience, basically, there's a few definitions of it. It depends on, where you look. There's about 3 main definitions for what pseudoscience is. But in general, pseudoscience is any belief or practice that is believed to be science, but in fact, it did not go through the rigor of the scientific method. And so it basically comes from the concept of pseudo, meaning fake, unreal, and science, going back to a word that means to know. So it basically comes down to fake knowledge. But how do you kind of determine what is fake knowledge? And so that's where the scientific method within the definition comes into play, because science, or the scientific method, is a set of tools that we use in order to know when something is known. And so these tools allow you when you know something, allows you to know when you know something. Hence the word science means to know. Comes from the word basically meaning to know. And so some people use the word pseudo improperly. And this is what I explained earlier today, that some people use the word pseudo to mean false. I mean, not false, but incorrect. And because the word pseudo means false, means like unreal or false. So they use it to mean, okay, that information not right. So if you say something and you say, well, that's pseudo, and they don't mean it in the sense of, okay, we just don't know if it's right or wrong because we can't apply, or the scientific method hasn't been applied to it. So it hasn't been it's not either falsifiable, or it hasn't gone through that rigor of the scientific method. So, I gave the example of what I meant by that is if a question is asked and there's only two possible answers to the question, either yes or no, and you're listening to the question asked and you're listening to the answer given, you listening to that, if you have no idea which answer is right or wrong, then you're stuck in a situation of not knowing, ignorance. You just simply just don't know. And so if that situation happened and you pass that information on as if it was true, then here you are touching on what is pseudoscience, because you haven't applied the scientific method to find out if it is possible to know in the first place. So, and nobody would do that. An example I gave earlier would be to pay out on a bet. We value our money to the point where you wouldn't pay out on a bet if you were unsure if the person who was betting got the correct answer or not. So if you don't know if they got the correct answer, you're not going to sit there and pay out on a bet. I could use any example, but people will definitely value their money. So I just use that as an example so they can kind of get the point across on that. So pseudoism is basically fake knowledge. And so it's not very useful. It's not effective in the things that we do as a community, in people's personal lives, or as a whole, our people as a whole. And so some examples I gave of that is like with food. And I asked the question, can we eat pseudo food or fake food? And the answer is no. If you try to live off of fake food, you'll die, because the food is fake. It's not real. You get no nutrients from fake food. Likewise, I said, can you travel? If you had to go from one place to another place, can you travel in a pseudo car, a fake car? The answer is no. No one would even try that. No one would attempt, in their right mind, would attempt to eat fake food. And by fake food, I gave the example of little children. They have these little toys, action figures, and dolls, and they may have fake kitchen, fake food. These little plastic foods and things like that. Nobody sits there and really tries to eat that. That's not real. And if you did, you end up dying trying to survive off that. So likewise. So the thing is why is it then that we feel that we can survive or function effectively on fake knowledge? If we can't eat fake food and survive, and we can't drive in fake cars and think we're going to get somewhere, then why all of a sudden, when it comes to fake knowledge, pseudoscience, that we feel that we can actually get somewhere and be effective? So those are some of the examples I gave, and it kind of puts the mind in the proper place to really think about what pseudoscience is. So we shorten it to pseudo. So we have this no pseudo tour basically, and we have been eliminating some pseudo claims, because we have to clean house in order to bring in fresh new furniture, so to speak. And so a lot of the different pseudo claims that are worthwhile, that's what myself and the brother Unk have been addressing, and the Amara squad as a whole. So that's why we have the we call it the no pseudo tour. So that's what that's all about. So a couple of things that I've been covering over the past few events. I was only able to touch on two things today. And I kind of want to review that today because what I covered today has to deal with chakras. And chakras is a big thing in the so-called conscious community. A lot of people talk about chakras. I'm sure you heard about it. Chakras a lot.
Yeah, real quickly, I know you asked how is it that we could think we could survive of pseudo science,
right,
pseudo knowledge, and I was just wondering that could it be that part of the problem is that most of the people in the community don't have the right tools to discern what it is that is pseudo information or pseudoscience,
Right, and they either don't have knowledge of the tools, or they don't know how to use the tools, because it's like, figuratively, it's like, people can drive around with a tool chest in the trunk of their car, and if the car breaks down, although they have the tools available or near them, accessible to them, but if they don't know how to use them, then they still can't fix the car. So we have tools available to us, but a lot of people don't know how to use them, and it takes time to even learn how to use them. That's why we push sciences. We have to get back into sciences and things, and we have to stop the thought or the idea that science belongs to another group of people. You hear people say, "Oh, science is the white man's thing," or "That's the white man's science," and we kind of touched on that today as well. That the fact that people say that, and it just appeals to laziness. Like we actually gave a good example earlier today about that. Like, for example, why is it that we will borrow different principles and concepts, and one of the things I discussed about with chakras, from other people, other groups of people, or other cultures, or quote unquote other races and things, with no problem, and mix it and blend it, and it becomes popular, money's made off of it, and the whole nine. But then when it comes to science, people say, "No, that's the white man's science. I don't deal with that, and neither should you," etc. So that's a contradiction that I see in the community, and we have to fix that. So so science is not, the up and beyond the fact that science is not the white man's thing. And plus, that's real silly, because on the other hand, you have people that say, well, quote unquote black people are the first people on the planet. Everybody comes from Africa. Therefore, all of these different practices and things come out of Africa. So what's wrong with me using it? That's the justification that people give. But again, when it comes to science, you don't hear people say that. It's the other way around. It's like, "Oh no, that's the white man's science. Leave it alone." But I could say, "Hey, Bazi astrology, that's Chinese. Leave it alone. Chakras, that's over there in India. Leave it alone. Yoga, that's over there in India. Leave it alone." No, it's not. They took it from the Egyptians, and it's in Africa, it's in Egyptian and stuff like that. But we don't say the same thing about science. For some reason, when it comes to science, that's like the taboo word. That's the taboo with some people. And I don't want to make it sound like a lot of people, but it's enough. Significant number of people, because I see it online. But I just want to go over this chakra thing, because when I came home, I came in, I got inbox messages from a couple of folks dealing with the chakras, and I didn't really realize that chakras is a big thing in the conscious community. It's pretty huge. Chakra, the 7 chakras, from the crown chakra to the root chakra, and aligning your chakras, and the Kundalini force, traveling up the spinal columns, and everything. So so I don't, so I want to kind of go over this again, real quick. Well, not real quick, but go over this, so if you don't mind. And I'm gonna say hotep to those who tuned in. It's late Saturday night, 12 midnight, just sitting here kicking it with Sonnet Imiket, and I'm gonna go over this issue with the chakras again,
Right.
a little more slow and clearly, so that people will get it. Because like I said, I came home to a lot of questions, and I was like, okay,
Right. You're trying
and
to
I
ruin
don't.
people's businesses.
Yeah, and I don't. If people gonna be upset with me, I'd rather for it be for a valid reason. So let me. I want to go over this. So let me do that right now. And but I'm gonna say hotep. I see we have good elder Deka Kilimanjaro. If he's still tuned in, I want to let everyone know there's a set of books. It's a series of books that's put forth by the University Kemet Press. Actually, I can show one. It's not near me right now, but University Kemet Press. All right, good elder brother Deka Kilimanjaro. Yahra Aneb and Dakar Kilimanjaro's wife, Ifa Kilimanjaro. They've done an excellent job at putting out a series of books that are really, really on point, pushing, us to get our act together. It's a series of books that's evidence-based. It shows you procedures. It's like an instructional manuals, so to speak. Some of them are going over information, historical information. You have African timeline. You have Box Squared. Even a book about morals, African morals and things, which is the Book of Ma'at, which is the first one, all the way up until I believe the title is "What Do We Do Now?" Something to that effect. I don't have the book in front of me, but seek that out and get that. Those are must-haves that should be on every person's bookshelf.
Yes, and I believe there was 2 other new publications.
Right. I believe it's 16 or 17 books altogether, and I may be wrong on that. But yeah, so I just saw the elder tune in, so I want to definitely make sure people know that. University Kemet Press publications. Seek that out as a must-have. And just real quick, so I can show it. Yeah, I might as well do a little commercial. We don't have to. 1 second, let me do this. So, Kev, why don't you talk to the folks real quick? Let me get the other book real quick.
All right. Yeah. So while you do that, I think it's a great idea. I did watch a little bit of the presentation that you had today on the chakras, and I know that it will definitely be beneficial. You going through it one more time, because we did watch it through the live feed that Saint Sean was showing us, and Sinet Monique. But I know that some people had issues with the volume and all that. But so I think it will be definitely nice that we're going over it again. And it is definitely something that it is big in the conscious community. Chakras, meditation, astral projection, and all that. So I'm looking forward to viewing
Okay.
it.
All right. So real quick, this is one of the books. I don't know if everybody can see it. Can you see this? Read it, or is it flipped the other way around?
No, it's good.
Okay, so this is a book. This is one of the books I'm speaking about, called Study Teams. And just maybe if I can hold it up closer, right there. Oh, I'm off. There we go. So we have Ife Kilimanjaro, PhD, Dakar Kilimanjaro, PhD, Yahra Neb, Siba. All right. Seek this out. Seek out this title and the rest of the titles. These are must-haves. I will definitely vouch for the whole entire series. Full stop. All right. Do that. And another book must-have, I must say so myself, is this book here, The Beginner's Introduction to Sesh Medu Neter, the Ancient Egyptian Hieroglyphic System. Is a must-have. Get it. It's a beginner's book. It's written to where you don't have to have any knowledge of the language or the writing system whatsoever, and it will get you to the point by the time you finish the book. And also, it's really good if you take the complimentary class. I give classes online, and I use the book as a textbook. So this book serves the purpose of a textbook, but also if you don't take the class, it's useful as a standalone where you can read the book and learn. It's just preferred that you take the class, because the learning environment, when you learn among other people and you learn in a more controlled environment, and you're able to be guided by a teacher or someone with the knowledge, then it just comes out better. It's a lot more effective. So get the book. But the classes are available online. They're 12 weeks long classes. And we meet 2 hours every week, once a week. So there's 12 sessions for 2 hours apiece, lasting 12 weeks. All right. And I form new groups all the time. So you can contact me or go to the website, www-ntr.com, meduneter.com. All right, and because I don't have it to type in there, let me just show you all the website for those who are watching. Oh, here you go. Let me see. It's kind of hard for me to. Hopefully, you can see the website right there. Mm. All right, so go to that website. Check out the information, register for class. You can purchase the book from the website, and also you can purchase the book from Amazon.com. All right, so that's that one. Oh, yes, I'm saying
a necessity, because a lot of these claims, the pseudo claims that we hear, is based on some kind of validation using Kemet, and most of it, happens through, like just the lack of understanding of the language. So I would suggest that the book would definitely be a good investment if for anyone who wants to understand the language, so that they can, better understand and dissect the information that, we see out here regarding all other kinds of things that are related to Kemet in one way or another.
Right. Okay. And dua for that, Lisa, for typing in the website. Okay, another book, a must-have. Has the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system been deciphered? A rebuttal to Walter Williams. Okay, I'm sure that everybody who's watching right now and who will see this video has heard all last year about the claim that the hieroglyphic writing system has not been deciphered. The two proponents of that was Sarah Seti and Young Pharaoh, and there was supposed to be a debate about that in December, but the debate never took place. But this book right here was published prior to the debate and available at the debate, and this book completely refutes the claim. All right, it's written by a collective, the Seshu Ma'ani Medu-Neter, which I'm a part of, and also Emiket, and we have other members who are part of, and collectively we put this book together to address this. And basically, when it says a rebuttal to Walter Williams, Professor Walter Williams wrote a book called The African Origin of Christianity. And this book is not a rebuttal to his entire book that has that title. But in that book, in the appendix, he makes the claim about the hieroglyphics not being deciphered. And it's because of his claim that these other individuals are using and basing their claims on. So instead of us addressing, for example, Sarah Seti or Young Pharaoh directly, we just went to the person that they're getting the information or that notion from, which is Walter Williams. And because Walter Williams has taken the time to put it in a book and has done so in a more scholarly way, then we decided to address it in a scholarly way, very maturely and very respectfully, and we did it in writing. So get this book. If you're one of those people who believe that the hieroglyph writing system has not been deciphered, this book is for you. Or if you already know that it's been deciphered, just so you can share it and explain it to other people, this book is for you. All right, so get that book. All right, so and by the way, we made sure that Professor Walter Williams got a copy and everything, and we haven't received a formal reply or anything like that, but we'll wait. It was well received. It was well received by quite a few people that we did get word from and everything, who really appreciate the fact that we've actually done it, because a lot of people have talked about it and tried to rebuttal the claim, because this claim has been going on for quite a while. And a few people, I know Dr. Bikedi Amin has addressed it on a few interviews that she's done. I know Elder Ashra Kwesi has addressed it in a few interviews that he's done, but not as far as writing about it. So it's appreciated that it's actually put in writing. All right, so yeah, that was my way of doing a few commercials on here, but anyway, so back to this No Pseudo tour. All right, so pseudoism is like it's like termites. It eats away at our progress at our community. It deteriorates, it decays it, and it's very slow. And we don't really notice it. We don't really pay attention to it until it's too late. So those of us who do recognize it, we are addressing it. So that's why we have the No Pseudo tour. So one of the things I want to walk through real quick is about the chakras. Like I said, I got a lot of questions about that because chakras is a big thing. And people are in the depression that I am saying chakras is just blanketly saying that chakras is false, is BS, it's pseudo, this and that, and don't deal with it. And that's not what I'm saying. So let me just go through it. All right, so chakras. So let me see if I can get this to click and change up here. Okay, so what I'm specifically addressing is chakras in Egypt, not the chakras that are within the system over in India, the various systems over there. All right, and I'm going to come back to that to drive the point home. But what I'm addressing is chakras in Egypt. Okay, and I take a specific claim, specific example, and address it. So a question was asked related to chakras in ancient Kemet. It was pointed out that on page 124 of the Peret Imheru by Dr. Muada Ashby, that there are two pictures of the scales of Ma'at, with one showing 7 circles. And this diagram is used to support what is conveyed on the page. All right. So this is what the page has. So this is a screenshot of that particular page 124 of Dr. Muada Ashby's book, The Peret Imheru. All right. And you see the title says The Scales of Ma'at and the Psycho-Spiritual Energy Centers. Okay. It says figure 73, the Greenfield Papyrus on the left, which is this image on the left, and then the Kina Papyrus scales. It says scales, but I'm sure that meant to be scales of Ma'at on the right. Okay, and it's this particular one on the right that is used to support the notion of 7 chakras and how ancient Kemet, or the Remich, which is the indigenous name for the Egyptians, dealt with the chakra systems. And this is a depiction of it. So this is what's claimed in this particular book. So I'll just read the first sentence. It says, the serpent power system of energy centers from ancient Egypt is depicted clearly in the judgment scene of certain papyri. The serpent power, known as Kundalini energy and as prana in India, chi in China, and Ras Sekhem in ancient Egypt, flows through thousands of nadis, or subtle energy channels in the subtle astral body. If any of the energy channels are blocked or oversensitized, a disbalance can arise, causing illness in the mind and physical body. All right, etc. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. So as you can see, these two pictures are being used to support the point that the serpent power system of energy centers from ancient Egypt is depicted clearly in the judgment scenes. So the claim is that these energy centers are being depicted clearly here. All right, so remember this. This is the Kina Papyrus Scales of Ma'at, this particular one on the right. So this next picture, and that's not the next picture. Let me get to the next picture. I don't know why it forwarded so far down. We back up. Okay. So this next picture is the actual picture of the Kina Papyrus out of the Leiden Museum. All right. So you can Google the Leiden Museum and you can contact them, like the British Museum. A lot of these museums, if they show pictures on their websites and things, you can contact them to obtain copies of it. A lot of them would be more than happy to forward you a good facsimile or copies of it. All they'll ask you for is what's your intended use. you know, if you're going to use it in a publication, then they may have to give you, license it to you, and it may be a fee or whatever the case is for that. But this is the actual picture of the actual papyrus itself. All right, as big as I can get it on the screen. And so as you can see that the papyrus has aged. So you see that it's a bit dingy. A lot of the glyphs that you see here at the top are damaged in terms of, you know, the fading of the ink and things like that. And you see some color bleeding and spots pretty much over the papyrus. All right. But now what I want you to pay attention to are these dark, what appears to be circles here. Because if I go back, these are the dark circles that are within Dr. Ashby's book. And if you count these circles, there's 7. You see 3 at the bottom, and then you see the what's known as the monster Amit in Kemet, kind of separating the 3 at the bottom from the 4 above. So you have 4 and 3, which adds up to 7. All right. So now if you go back and you look at the papyrus, you can see these dark circles, which is what's being depicted in the redrawing of it. But now we're looking directly at the papyrus. So now we're going to the bottom of it. Now this is what I'm showing here is the very bottom of it. And I'm not sure if my cursor is showing up on this live stream. Can you see my cursor? Emiket?
2.
Okay.
2.
So at the bottom, at the base of the scale is what I'm showing. So this is a close-up of the base of the scale, which would be the bottom circle in Dr. Ashby's work. But as you can see, there's no circle. It's what you're looking at is the result of color bleeding and aging of the papyrus. There are no scribal lines that would indicate a circle. There's no lines that indicate any circle. You can see the outline of the base, and then you could just simply see the color or the fading of the color that's bleeding outside of the original lines of the base. So there's no circle whatsoever there. All right, so here's some more examples. Now let's go to the top. Here's the very top of the scales, right up under the canine head that's at the top of the scale. And you see what looks like a circle, but again, it's not a circle because you don't see any lines for a circle. This is also a result of the colors bleeding beyond the original lines of the actual straight up and down pole of the scales itself. All right, so this is not a circle. Now, what's interesting about this particular circle, as I say inside here, is that Dr. Ashby in his book, he didn't include this one. Okay, he excluded this one from his drawing. And let me go back to it. Let me go back to the drawing. Well, let me show you the bigger picture. You see it here under the canine head. All right, you see it here, which is above the bars on the scale and right below the canine head. But if I go back to Dr. Ashby's depiction, it's missing. You only count 7. And so it's interesting because if the other one was included, then that would make 8. And if it was 8, it would kind of fall out of, you know, the whole thing about the 7 major chakra centers, from the root chakra, from the crown chakra down to the root chakra, which everyone knows is 7. So the 8th circle would kind of throw that off. So this was excluded from his book, but you can actually see it inside the and there it is. It did it again. I'm not sure why it does that, but let me go back.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Okay, but you can see in the actual papyrus itself that there is indeed what appears to be a circle there, but it's a stain. Okay, so that one was omitted or excluded. All right, so let's keep going. Okay, so here is another example of the bracelet that's around the wrist of Ma'at that you see in the picture. And you can see that this is a bracelet. No one would consider this a chakra or a circle. So again, you see the staining, the color bleeding beyond the lines. You can see the actual lines of the wrist and then the bracelet, and whatever color of pigment that was used to draw this particular bracelet, that color bled beyond the lines, the original lines that the scribe drew. All right, and that's through time and age. You know, these things are very, very, very old. All right, so I'm just showing you that one. And here's some bleeding beyond the head of Anpu, or Anubis, as some people may know. And you can see beyond the chest, beyond the lines of the chest, you can see the stains. You can see the darker stains right here. You can see above the head, right behind the ears, you can see the dark brown stain. And so you can see the color bleeding. All right. So these are just examples of you know, more confirmation of the bleeding effect based on the age and how the papyrus has survived, you know, up until this day. Here's Anpu's bracelet. You can see it's a very close-up one. You can see the stains go beyond the lines. A close-up of the head that I showed earlier. You can see the stains. It's very clear. All right. So the point here is that, again, you know, this is not to take chakras. This is not a blanket statement to take chakras out of the equation altogether. The point that I made earlier and the point I'm making here right now is that chakras in Egypt and what is being used to demonstrate or back that claim up is just not true. All right, that particular papyrus makes no mention. Let me go back to it real quick, because another point I want to make. Let's see, get back up to the top. Okay. Now, when you look at this papyrus, you see the figures here. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures, and you see some other artifacts within the picture. All right, you see the scales, but then above everything, you see hieroglyphs, or what we know as Seshmetu Neter, which is the more appropriate or indigenous term for hieroglyphs. So you see Seshmetu Neter up here in columns, and this is text. These are inscriptions. Okay, this is actual writing system of a language. And so what people tend to do is they ignore the inscriptions and they just try to interpret the pictures of what you see. And you can't do that. That's a grave mistake to do that, because the inscriptions and the scenes or the vignettes or the figures that accompany these inscriptions, they go together. You can't interpret them independently. They go together. And so a lot of people ignore this. And, you know, I understand why people ignore it, because they don't know how to read it. So it's often ignored. But we have to change that. All right. So, but the point I want to make is that inside these inscriptions, this is the judgment scene that is found in many, a plethora of different papyri known as the quote-unquote Book of the Dead, or more appropriately called the Runu Peret Imheru, utterances for coming forth by day. And this is the judgment scene that's very, very popular. A lot of people know about it because, you know, this is the one. You can Google it and you'll see it everywhere. And there's no mention of chakras in the text. There's no mention of circles in the text. This scale is mentioned and it's described, but it's not mentioned anything about circles on the scale or 7 or anything like that whatsoever. All right, so keep that in mind. That's one of the points that I make in this conclusion. So let me get back down to the conclusion. Let me go back up. Okay, so in conclusion, and so the first thing I say is that the images and figures and inscriptions are never separate. Remember that. People have to remember that. And listen, if anyone shows you a picture of a scene from Kemet, whether it's a temple, whether it's a coffin, whether it's a stela, whether it's whatever, and you see figures and you see hieroglyphs in there or Seshmedanetra in there, if they don't address the inscriptions along with the figures, then be cautious, because I'm not going to sit here and say that they are going to be lying or whatever, because I wouldn't know. But just be cautious, because most of the time, it's been my experience almost all of the time, but most of the time, people who do that, they're going to interpret the figures way out of context, and they're going to put their own opinions and spins and all kinds of things on it. And it's always best to go to the horse's mouth. We have to realize that the ancient Remich, which is the name for the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Remich can speak for themselves. They documented what they documented, and it has survived to this very day. So whenever you get a hold of of any kind of pictures and things like that, make sure that you never separate the image or the figures from the inscriptions. And the inscriptions will tell you what the image is all about. It's just that simple. All right, so that's a major point. All right, and the other point that I made is basically that what you saw in the papyrus itself, when you look at the actual papyrus and not other people's reproduction of it and drawings of it, you actually look at the papyrus itself, that you'll see that there were no circles whatsoever. So for anyone to make a claim about chakras and then relate it to that papyrus as a justification or proof of that, they do so in error. It's just that simple. All right. So that papyrus has nothing whatsoever to do with chakras at all. All right. And so now that's what I went over earlier today. But now the thing is, I don't want it to get confused with the fact that me saying all this, because this is, just straight facts, what I just showed. But I don't want it to get confused for a knock against the doctrine dealing with chakras itself. So what we have to understand is that chakras is an Indian thing. Matter of fact, I think that's on the next slide. Okay, so chakras belong to the domain of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, and is thought to be an energy point or node in the subtle body. All right, so what I mean is that chakras belong in a closed system in a domain of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, meaning that whenever you deal with a indigenous system, a spiritual system of a group of people or community of people, it is always best and proper to leave the elements of that system where it is. In other words, it's okay to practice it. It's okay to participate in it, but don't try to mix it. Don't try to mix and match elements from all these other systems. And the reason why is because these elements function best within their own context. And this is why it's important to learn languages, because chakras come from a Sanskrit word that has to do with a wheel or something circular, circles. And depending on the school of thought in India, or in those practices, they may have a slight variation in the use of the word chakra, and it's even pronounced a little bit differently depending on the school of thought. But overall, they are related. But these ideas are self-contained in the system. It's a closed system. So when you cherry pick those elements and then bring them over to Africa or into Egypt or anywhere else, you're making a big mistake by doing that. All right. So that's the point well, I guess the secondary point that I'm making. And so again, I'm not saying that chakras is bad or whatever the case is. It's leave it where it is. If people want to get into and study chakras and incorporate that in their lives, then do so in the context in which it exists. Don't bring it over into another system and then start, trying to do it, and then it's going to force you to add your spin and your opinions on it. It's not going to be effective. So for example, Chinese, they have Bazi astrology. So that's that. It's okay to practice it, but don't try to take it and use elements and mix it over and then claim that it's something that it's not. You have feng shui, you have qigong over there. What else? What are some other things? Tai Chi, and I'm not sure what that's, but you got Tai Chi, Qigong, Feng Shui, Bazi astrology. Oh, and then you have I Ching, which is their divination system, the I Ching. So those things operate very well where they are as a closed system. And to kind of drive the point home, what I mean by leave it where it is let's say you take a, let's see, what's a good example? Let's say you take, and I'm not very knowledgeable about automobiles, but this is a good example. Let's say you take a major part of an engine out of a Ford Mustang, and then you want to put it into a German-made BMW. Now imagine that. It's not going to work effectively, if it works at all. But if you leave the component where it is and where it's supposed to be, then it's going to be very effective, because that's what it's made for. Okay, so I just want people to understand the point, and that's a very important point that people need to understand. So I just wanted to clarify what I spoke about earlier at our event, and then to kind of address the questions that I came home to looking in my inbox and things like that. So hopefully that's clear to everyone about chakras and everything. And it goes for everything. It goes for yoga, it goes for tantra, it goes for Kama Sutra, anything that you're using in a system. And I'm saying the things that are mostly noted over in India, but even in African systems, even just on the continent itself, you have to be careful of trying to mix and match things, because they, different elements of a system function very well within the system that it's designed for and exist in. So just remember that. Remember that. I can't stress that enough. All right. So hopefully that was clear. So what are you thinking, Mikhail? You think that's clear enough?
Yeah, that's crystal clear. Somebody on the chat mentions yoni eggs and all that. Yeah, but I want to say it is very clear. And you know what? For the most part, is we understand these things when it comes to dealing with just the regular day-to-day stuff. And I was thinking while you're mentioning all the other stuff like is called I Ching and all the other stuff, I was just thinking about, for example, like, we understand that, sushi is Japanese, but you don't see anybody trying to go somewhere, maybe like Abuja in Nigeria, and trying to find a way to, incorporate sushi into some African dishes. I mean, we leave that as it is. So we for the most part, we understand these things, with the regular stuff. I think it's just it comes with people trying to get into other things that are not African in that perspective, but trying to find a way to validate them. So then they try to find different things, especially in Kemet, where they can use it to validate and attract people into these things. And it's not necessary, because those things, like you say, they function within the system, so you don't need to validate them. If they work, so you just need to be done in their own circle. And I was thinking about the other slide that you were showing. I think it had I don't remember, I think it was the first slide, or I think it was the first slide from the book with Muara Ashby and all that. And I was thinking, it was a good point that you say that, we have to be mindful of when people try to explain the vignettes, the pictures that come, with the inscriptions from Kemet. If you try to explain them out of the context of the text that accompanies them, then it is not tepesep, that is not correct, and you're always going to come up with all kinds of wild conclusions and things like that. And looking at that, I mean, even just the word chakra itself, I mean, you don't see anybody trying to explain what is the Seshmerunetra word for chakra, So you can see on the vignette, we see the scale. We know what the scale is, markat. We see the bracelet. We know what the bracelet is, sakhu. But what is chakra?
Right. Exactly. That's an excellent point. And these are important points. And I hope that people that may see, this live stream, will understand it. And like I have respect for people who practice those traditions and those systems when they do so and leave it where it is. So there's nothing wrong with practicing Bazi astrology. There's nothing wrong with incorporating feng shui and things. So again, I'm being kind of redundant, but the important thing is to leave them in the system that it's in. And I don't know if it's an instance of people feel that because it's part of a system that is not continental African, that they feel the need to incorporate it on the continent to kind of justify why they're doing it. I guess the conscious community has kind of put a guilt trip on people, maybe, to kind of justify, like, well, yoga, Kemetic yoga, yoga is in Kemet, so here it is, I'm doing my thing. Or chakras and tantra and all this, it's in Kemet. We find it in Kemet. And, I hear over and over and over again, people use the explanation that, well, everything was in Africa first, or it's in Kemet, and then they borrowed it or they stole it. Like everything is stolen from Kemet. Therefore, by them practicing it, I'm just taking it back, type of thing. And, that's just, that's really a poor justification or a poor excuse for that. And it just shows a contradiction overall in the community, because when it comes to science, and I pointed this out earlier today at the event, when it comes to science, people go the other way. It's like,
right.
If I'm going to deal with chakras, the third eye, kundalini, chakras, yoga, tantra, Kama Sutra, and stuff like that, and I'm going to justify my practice of that by saying, well, it's in Kemet first, and so I can continue to practice it. But why is it that people that do that don't do the same thing with science? So instead they'll say, well, I'm going to practice science. I'm going to use science and do everything because, hey, even though it's the white man's science, but it was first in Africa, so I'm just taking it back. Nope. It's like, that's the white man's science, and I'm going to leave it alone. I'm scared of it,
Because it takes work, and it's something that takes a longer period of time. You have to really think, put your brain to use. So I think that's one of the things why that's one of everything that was taken from us that we would not want to quickly claim. Yes,
and that's an important point, and that's the kind of conclusion that I come to as well, because science is a very it's a specialized thing that we should practice. It shouldn't be anything, but we've fallen away from it to the point where it's become almost a taboo to people, to be scientific. So because pseudoscience is easy, pseudoscience appeals to laziness. Pseudoscience is the quick fix. It's very quick. It's very fast because you don't put time into research. You don't do literature review to find out what scholars in the field say about it. Do they all agree? Do they disagree? Why do they disagree? And can you find something that will resolve the disagreement yourself? People don't go through that rigor, and do that. We just come across articles, or we'll Google something and then it sounds good and we'll run with it, and we'll think of a way to package it up. And some people take it further and package it up, sell it, and it becomes a business for them, a lifestyle for them. It helps them to survive. And then once you get into that level of things, then it's really hard to come out of it, because you have made that part of your mode of living, how you're making a living. And so we just gotta, do better as a whole. Like I said, I don't knock anybody for practicing these things. It's just that it will be respectful to the tradition itself and to the person themselves to do so and leave it where it is. Leave it where it is. Practice it. You don't have to be apologetic. If people want to practice yoga, or like I said, tantra, or with the chakras and things like that, do it. Go all out. Just practice. You don't have to be apologetic and feel guilty or feel the need to do it. Just do it. Because those are beautiful systems. Like, for example, Chinese medicine. A lot of people use Chinese medicine, but nobody will say, okay, Chinese medicine is over here. Nah, they acknowledge that it's Chinese medicine. It's what they do. They have the acupuncture points and the meridians and things. They tie it in the qigong and the flow of the qi and stuff like that. They give qigong exercises, and they do the acupuncture, and they prescribe different things. They have a nice system, and people use it. And so, I won't knock the system. It's just that when you try to mix and match and claim it to be something that it's not, that's where the problem is. So, I'm listening to myself and repeating myself. So that's really the point that I wanted to make and wanted to kind of clear up and come live and do, because I discussed this today, and I guess some of the people that saw it had questions, and so I wanted to come on and address that. So
that's good.
Hopefully that's clear. But I appreciate anybody who's watching. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Let's see, we got Brother Nahisi. Yeah, if you're still tuned in, Hotep, Nahisi, Tavon, Christopher Withers, Hotep. And also, I went over that too. Why we say Hotep. Why we use Hotep as a greeting. Some people will try to question that, and even go as far as to say that the ancient Egyptians never greet each other with Hotep. So why do you all Hotepers greet each other with Hotep? So I went over that earlier today. And so this is what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to address claims that are being passed off as science or scientific when they're not. And so also with that, things that have been shown to just be inaccurate. And, and this is no disrespect to anyone who is of the mindset of these things that we address. So, for example, this is what I'm addressing is one of the claims out of Dr. Moata Ashby's book. And there's no disrespect to Dr. Moata Ashby. And hopefully with him, he's a person of